welcome to the April 13th zoning board hearing. We have one hearing on the agenda tonight. Before we handle that, I'd ask the board members to review the minutes from the last meeting, which this is the February 9th meeting. Wow, it's been that long.
Yeah, I make a motion, we accept.
Motion by John to accept. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chris. All those in favor? Yes. Yes, you weren't here, right?
Yep.
And David, you were here, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So there's 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay. With that, this is on the application of Brian St. George, 148 Congress Street, Milford, for a variance relief from the provisions of section 2.5 of the zoning bylaws, and specifically minimum lot size thereunder in order to divide the parcel of land at the southeasterly intersection of Congress Street and Angus Road, known and numbered as 148 Congress Street, into 2 lots. 1 lot to contain the existing single-family house and garage, and the new lot to be available for single-family construction. With that, on the panel tonight would be myself, John Mastriani, David Pine, John Dagnes, Chris Burns.
Chris
Dagnes isn't here.
John I'm sorry, not John Dagnes.
Mark has a lawyer.
Mark Gaz, a lawyer, and then Chris Burns. Those will be the 5 members tonight. So if Dave Claro does come in, he's going to sit in this hearing. So with that, we'll review the application. Do you want to give a motion to dispense with the reading of the
I
application?
make a motion.
There's a motion to suspend with the reading of the application as
Second.
long as it stipulates as is in the current application.
Yes.
And that the attorney for the applicant will go through each process of that application. So with that, I have a second. Second by John. All those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. And I will read into the record, in your package, you will have a site plan. Can you put this up, Ernie? Is this the only one you have?
I've got a lot of them, but I don't,
You got big ones?
yeah,
Oh, yeah, all right.
what's the
we'll take-
protocol? You want me to put it on the board?
Yeah, put one on the board for the public, and then we got the other big ones, that'd be great. You got it. So I'll read this into the record, and then we'll go down the road with what the applicant is trying to do. This particular variance was brought in front of the zoning board, the planning board, excuse me, at their 4/4/23 meeting, and the planning board has made an unfavorable recommendation due to lack of hardship. The town planner's letter is attached for your reference. The town planner's letter.
Thank you.
The applicants, the town planner and the chairman, Patrick Kennelly, the application states, "Dear Mr. Chairman, the applicant requests lot area variances to subdivide the existing 20,765 square foot conforming lot into 2 substantial lots for development purposes. The proposed lot 1 would contain 10,071 square feet of area, and the proposed lot 2 would contain 10,694 square feet of area. 15,000 square feet minimum lot size is required in this RB zone. The configuration of the existing lot is similar to others in the neighborhood. The subject property is flat lot containing 1 single-family dwelling with a detached garage. There exists no features of the current lot relating to the soil condition, shape, and topography that constitute a hardship. Therefore, they recommend an unfavorable report be sent off to the zoning board." With that, Attorney Pettinari, I believe you are representing the applicant.
I am.
So therefore, the floor will be yours.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I'm Ernie Pettinari. I'm here with Brian St. George. When I come before the zoning board and I hear the recommendations of the planning board, I think there's a confusion prevalent, and that is the statute says that the premises are supposed to be identifiable because of some kind of unique characteristics. And the question of hardship isn't related to the nature of the uniqueness of the lot, but rather the hardship as presented by the petitioner. I think that's important because in some cases, and I think in this case tonight, That distinction is something we can't lose sight of. The overall approach that we've used in analysis on this lot is the premises are in fact unique. They're a corner lot. They're one of the last corner lots that exists anywhere on Congress Street, and it has frontage that's consistent with the requirements of the zoning bylaw on both Congress Street and on Agnes Road. At some point, someone made a determination to develop this particular premises by fronting the house on Congress Street, and the frontage on Agnes Road is not being used for that purpose. The Agnes Road portion of the lot it's not in the best of conditions. There's a lot of material, brush, other things that are there that frankly do in fact highlight the way in which we draw the distinction relative to the two-lot nature of the premises themselves. As far as the hardship is concerned, the hardship that we allege in the application is something that Mr. St. George is wrestling with personally. Mr. St. George's brother is very ill and is in the process of undergoing expensive and extensive treatment for kidney disease. And what Mr. St. George would like to do is he would like to sell the lot that fronts on Agnes Road for the development of the parcel in a reasonable, single-family way, so as to avoid the hardship, which would be financial to his family, that would befall them. So that's how I want to make sure that I present the case. Certainly, we can discuss other people's opinions of that, but that's what we believe are the salient points as it relates to the provisions of 48. The proposal before you would create two 10,000-square-foot lots. The zoning up there is 15,000 square feet. The lots on Agnes Road are all in excess of 15,000 square feet. When they were laid out by plan in 1975, I believe, the lots were what would then be oversized and are presently oversized. The abutters to the premises, and by abutters I've expanded that phrase a little bit, and I've analyzed the properties that are in the general area of Agnes Road, Paula Road, Johnzo Road, et cetera. Typically, those houses were all constructed on lots at the time of their development that were 10,000 square feet or slightly more in some cases slightly less. But for our purposes, what I want to make sure I say to the board is, when I come before you, my approach always has been to suggest that what in fact is happening there is consistent with what already exists there. Now, admittedly, he's got an oversized lot. He's got an oversized corner lot that presently has one house on it. But if that property were laid out in the early 70s as it was, consistent with the properties in the immediate area, they would be 10,000 square feet, or at the very minimum, they would have frontage of 100 linear feet on the respective roads. So my approach here is, this is not really aberrational, it's not really unusual. It is the creation of conditions which reflect the conditions that are in existence because of the way in which all of those properties in that thoroughfare were laid out. If you look at my memo, you will see that what I did was I ran a rectangle and I kept the subject premises approximately in the middle of it. And if you take that rectangle and you go all the way past Bethel Road, and I don't know directions, but all the way past Bethel Road, and then up past the locus on Agnes Road up to Johnzo Road, I will tell you, I can't quantify this with a number because there's just too many of them, but the majority of the houses are built on lots that are 10,000 square feet. So the idea behind this presentation is to make sure you understand we don't believe that the suggestion of two houses on 10,000 square foot lots in the Congress Street / Agnes Road area is really inconsistent with existing conditions as they presently exist up there. The other thing that I want to make sure I leave with you is that I respectfully had a conversation with Mrs. Mastriani here, and I understand she's here to object to the issuance of this permit. I understand that. I've seen that over the years, and I'm going to let her do her talking for herself. The only thing I want to make sure is in the record is an abutter directly across the street from the premises addressed a letter to the zoning board. I don't know whether you received it, but I have a copy, and I've submitted it together with my memorandum. That letter from Mr. Gray, who lives across the street from this property, says that he welcomes the addition of the new house. He believes that the rehabilitation, if you will, of the side lot will be beneficial to the neighborhood, and he finds Mr. St. George a kind gentleman and very, very reasonably intended. So our approach to this entire thing is, we don't believe we're doing anything extraordinarily unusual. We think that it's consistent with the kind of development that has happened in Milford over the years. And we honestly believe that there are enough unique factors affecting the shape, size, topography, and layout of the lot. And we believe that this board has historically and I think consistently honored a financial hardship as being satisfying the conditions of 40A. And I honestly can tell you, I don't know that I can create in my mind a stronger case for a hardship than not being able to take care of a family member. The last thing I want to say is I've talked to Mr. St. George at length, and he understands that this board has the authority and the power to impose conditions on anything that they determine to be in the best interest of the community, the abutters, the neighborhood, et cetera. And he is perfectly willing to explore and discuss any number of those with you folks tonight or with the abutters who are present. I won't take up any more of your time. I think I've said everything I needed to say. We're here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patinari, and we're going to bring it to the board members first, and then, of course, we'll bring it to the public. And for the life of me, I could not find the site plan map is wrong.
From the
You have
assessors?
it from the engineer. You have it as map 36,
Okay,
but it's map 35.
okay, well,
It's not even on the right map.
this is what the assessors gave me.
Because 35 is Agnes Road and Congress. 36 goes from Bowden all the way down to Allen Road and Cornell Drive. So 36 should be 35. But this is what,
That's right. That is right, because that's the locus.
yeah, this is 35, not 36.
Thank God for the assessors.
Yeah, and this one says 36.
And that's wrong, too.
No, this one says 35.
No, that one's the abutter.
Oh, sorry.
That's the abutter.
Yep.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I just have a couple of comments before I open it up to board members. It worries and bothers me because we understand the aspects of variances, hardships, and in some cases, we've allowed certain hardships due to family members' issues concerning someone needs a handicap access to be able to build the house, so we want to be able to do a ranch, so they'll live right next door to us, and then we find out 7 months later that the property is on for sale and is now gone, and someone's trying to build a house on it. Frankly, I feel awful for his personal and financial issues. That's not the board's problem. Personal financial hardships related to the lot is a different aspect than personal financial aspects related to a relation, with all due respect.
Okay. I accept
The
that.
applicant has 4 or 5 different properties that clearly he can sell to help a family member. This particular property can certainly add a 2-story colonial with a big 2-car garage on it. So from that perspective is where I am going. I'll hold the rest of my thoughts till that point. and I'll turn it over to any board members that would like to speak. Anybody else?
I don't have anything
John?
right now, no.
Nothing yet.
Okay, David?
No,
Mark?
I like what you just said. Who lives in the red house there? That's empty. What are the plans for that? It certainly needs some work.
This is the first part of the plan right here. This is the first, I have to find out what I can do with it before I can do something to it. I'm sort of on a time constraint. My brother's on a list, on a short list. He came up maybe a month or two ago. He went into Boston for a kidney. The kidney turned out to be non-viable. But he lives alone, and without me going and living with him around the clock, none of that can happen. So for me to do that, I have to move something on the red house, on that little, I call it the red house, on 148 Congress.
You plan on selling that house? The house that's there?
Eventually,
If
yes.
if this gets divided, you plan on selling that house?
Absolutely.
And selling the lot?
Of course they are.
You're selling the lot to a builder, correct?
Yes, yes.
To a builder?
Yes.
You're not gonna do it yourself?
At this time, that's not part of the plan, because of the time constraint I have. I mean, I could literally leave this meeting and get a call from my brother that says, I'm going in there right now.
Well, any decision tonight's not gonna help you immediately.
It's not. What it's gonna do, though, is because of the situation for myself, I'll have to be with him 24 hours a day.
That's understood.
You know, that's just what it's
Can I
gonna be.
can I interrupt? This isn't our thing to debate, with this gentleman's problem. We're the zoning board, we're width, length, height, whether it makes sense or not. So it's disrespectful, in my opinion, to start interrogating applicant about health conditions that someone had, in fairness to him.
I don't think I'm interrogating him.
You are
On a health condition, I certainly am not.
You are interrogating him
I'm
because
asking him what he plans to do with the
You're
property.
wrong, though. You're wrong. That's not what the zoning board does. That's not what we're here for.
Certainly is.
Mark, you're wrong. Okay, maybe you don't think you're wrong, but you're wrong.
Okay, all right, settle down.
I'm not gonna settle down, because it's wrong. I've been doing this for 21 years. It's wrong. W-R-O-N-G, it's wrong. I'm not putting up with it.
That's fine. You have that right. Anybody else? Dave?
I just, in theory, I just have a hard time, you have something that's conforming, and then you want to separate it into two lots, and we have the right to do that, but what you leave behind is two things that are non-conforming. So you're not leaving something that's conforming, and then requesting with whatever you have left over to get another lot out of it, when you're that close. You're not able to maintain the 15,000 on one of them, because I think it's just square footage variance that you're looking
Correct,
for.
yeah, correct.
So you're not able to maintain one's conformity, and then with whatever you have left over, that be close enough. I just feel like you're just so far off.
Well, thank you for that, David, because I do want to respond to that. I have been privy to conversations in this room when we have presented petitions to take what is a conforming lot, to divide it, and create two lots which are halfway to conforming, as opposed to, as in this case, it's a little bit misleading, and one of the things that the town planner did is in his recommendation, he said you have a conforming lot. The reality is it's an oversized lot relative to current zoning. So yes, you're right. The result will create two lots which don't conform, but they are not two lots which will be dividing all of the accessible acreage in half to the exact number, such that if it was 15, each would be 7,500. They're not. Each of the lots that result from this would be over 10,000 square feet. And the only other thing I want to make sure everybody in the room knows is the only way in which these two resultant lots would not conform to the zoning bylaw is in terms of area. In every other way, they make it. They make it with frontage on both Congress Street and Agnes Road. They make it in terms of all the side yard, front yard, rear yard requirements. So you would have two houses that would conform to zoning except for the area. And the argument that I make is they may not conform to the zoning bylaw, but they will be representative of the conditions that are in the neighborhood. So that's my only argument.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Who would like to speak? There's a microphone right here. You can pick it up, take it with you. Don't be afraid.
I am afraid.
No one's going to bite you.
Mr.
Right there, just pick it right up, there you go, you can sit down and if you'd like,
I do.
ask any questions you'd like.
Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Mary Ann O'Brien Mastroianni, and I've lived in this town most of my life. I was born here, my parents were born here, and I'm a taxpayer, and they were taxpayers. And I'm really sorry that anyone is suffering and having issues. But I don't feel that Masha and I, and Claudia too, should be responsible for someone else's problem. Ralph and I bought that piece of property over 40 years ago with the understanding that it was a vacant lot next to us, because the Larsons had told us that it didn't meet.
Setback, yeah, didn't meet requirement.
Couldn't be split.
So whether that's the case any longer, I don't know. But I don't want to be an unkind neighbor. But Mr. St. George is not my neighbor. He bought that piece of property, if I'm not mistaken, in 2004. He's never lived there. It's always been a rental property. It's always been a problem for us. And sorry.
You're doing well, you're doing well.
Because Masha and I know one another real well because our husbands were dying at the same time. And we tried to help her get a loan because they had financial problems at the time. And she didn't try and sell the house. Or she didn't try and subdivide it, and she has more land than all of ours. And she didn't come before this board asking for a variance so that she could sell her back lot. I might think of something else I could say in a minute, and I'm sorry to be so emotional.
Thank you. Anybody else care to be heard?
So I live at 140, I'm Marcia Smith, Hutchinson in the town record. All due respects to Mr. St. George. I didn't realize that the current tenant had moved out. He has been absolutely delightful the time that he has been there. The
last one,
tenant
yeah.
before him was a nightmare. We won't get into details because that's here. I became a widow very suddenly in July of 2021 after losing my husband to a 40-day battle with cancer. I've struggled, not gonna lie. I'm a single income now on a property where the taxes keep going up. As Mary Ann said, I do have almost 3/4 of an acre. My house is the original house for that entire area, built in 1930s. All due respect to Mr. Gray, his family owned my house originally. One of the biggest problems that we have is flooding in that area. My sump pump has been replaced 2 times in the last 4 years because of the flooding. I have met with the town has come out, they've drained, they put in a drainage system so that it goes out. We constantly have a lake between our houses, we jokingly call it Lake Mastroianni, that develops anytime there's rain or snow.
There's a real low area on the corner of Agnes and Congress. Does
That's
that
where
fill
this
up with water?
is. That's where they're proposing the new house be built.
I know, but does that fill up with water?
The area behind the red house does.
Okay.
So I'm assuming, and pardon my assumption,
And Claudia's too.
pardon my assumption on it, but I would assume if they develop that land on Agnes, that the water that is there is going to come even more into my area, into Mary Ann's area. I get fairly regular flooding even within the last rain and snowfall that we had. So I can't afford to keep replacing pieces of my property, which is my responsibility, and I respect that because of development that isn't zoned and wasn't what we bought when we bought our house.
Thank you. Anybody else care to be heard? Any other board members care to be heard? Mr. Petnari?
The only comment that I want to make, and I think that the presentations were fine, and I think that they were all within the bounds of civility. So, Mary Ann, when you said we're not going to like you, that's not the case. I think you stated your case very well. The only thing I want to make sure I leave everybody with is this. If they have drainage problems now, it's not inconceivable that a well-crafted, well-engineered plan can alleviate that and can be an improvement for everybody in the neighborhood. And this board, as I've said many times in the years gone by, has the power to impose those kinds of conditions. And he's got no objection to anything like that. So, again, in returning the compliment to be a good neighbor, he's perfectly willing and understanding that he's affecting other people if this goes forward. But if this board sees fit and imposes conditions that the premises be engineered to such a degree that it alleviates the natural problems that people are having with drainage, that's within your purview, and everybody can walk away happy. I don't think we can address Mrs. Mastriani's concerns, because we could put up fences, we could put up trees, we could put up all those kinds of things, but her objection is the existence of the house on the lot, and I get that. And the only other thing, he whispered to me during the presentation, he lived in the house for 6 years after he did buy it, in the red house, from 2004 till 2010 approximately. So.
I was there with my children. My mother passed in that house.
Any other questions?
Just one question. You mentioned that it was low-lying, that it held water. It looks like it's a little bit lower in that area compared to the Agnes Road and the Red House. It's about 2 feet lower. Has conservation looked at? Is there any kind of wets or anything like that?
I've not been involved in that, David, and I don't think so. I don't believe so. But again, if that's necessary, his approach to this has been, he wanted to do one thing at a time. And if it's necessary, the Conservation Commission would be the next stop.
Okay, anybody else? You all set? Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to say that and I have to read this because I'm going to cry, but I wanted to say that I respectfully request the board deny this variance and uphold the current zoning requirements.
Thank you. I guess with that, you have the last word.
Again, I was not aware until this evening that there would be a butter questions, but as I've always done with the butters questions, I do believe that there is a function of this board that they can take those questions and comments into account and can tailor relief that is requested by the owner to meet those needs as well. I still believe that. I'm going to believe that no matter how you vote tonight. The one thing I do want to make sure I say for the record, the requested variance is not outrageously unique in the sense that it's creating lots which are comparable to the lion's share of the lots that are within 500, 800 feet of the lot. That's my last comment.
I got one more question.
Could I have?
I also would like to comment on that.
Yeah. I was just going to say, most of the houses in that area are very old. And when the Larsens sold, all of the property which became Agnes Road was the Feloses all the way down. And they all had to have at least a half an acre.
Right.
She's right about that. They didn't have to have a half an acre, but you're right about that. They did have a half an acre. They had to have 15,000 square feet.
Yes.
But all of the Larson subdivision, I think there were 5 lots, including this one. Is that right?
The Pines, the Feloses.
They're all my abutters.
They're all your abutters, yeah, because that's your backyard,
My
hon.
backyard.
But she's right. The Larson subdivision created oversized lots. This oversized lot is a corner lot. If this lot were developed the way the lots as Mrs. Mastriani refers to them, of those older houses, they would have put the dividing line between them, and we would have had 10,000 square foot lots all the way down the street. Again, this is one of the last remaining corner lots on Congress Street.
So, if I may add, the 3 abutting lots, which are Mary Ann's, mine, and Claudia's, hers is 14,000 square feet, hers is half an acre, and mine is almost 3/4 of an acre. So the direct abutting lots are not 10,000 square
Right.
feet.
No, and I'm not
So-
saying
But you
they
did
are.
imply that the abutting ones within 500 feet of the house were
Oh, no.
10,000 square feet. So
Yeah,
I would
but-
like to
but
just
fi-
make sure
500
that's
feet's a long,
corrected.
long way. The standard for the zoning board, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, standard for the zoning board is 300 feet. What I did was I drew a line 900 feet long from that side of Congress Street.
Understood, I understand.
And that's where the lots are smaller.
I understand
Not the lots on Agnes Road.
real estate and property
But that's
quite well.
where you're talking about putting the houses on Agnes Road.
Correct, that's correct. But we're talking about that subdivision plan. You're right about that.
From the 1950s.
No, 75.
Well, 75 for this particular
Yeah,
subdivision.
Okay, but again, you're right. I'm not arguing with you. You're absolutely right about that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
The question I still have is, are you gonna sell the red house and the piece of property?
I have to get through this process before I can make any
I understand.
decision. You know?
All right.
Okay. All right, with that, I guess we'll close the hearing.
I'm fine, thank
Any
you.
other comments?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, we'll close the hearing. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve it. I don't see any difference in this lot or any of the other 3 dozen that I can think of that we approved to make this one any different than ones we've approved in the past.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Not hearing a second.
Thank you very much.
Motion to deny the application? Is there a motion to deny? Someone's going to make a motion. Well, we're actually going to just
You know, yeah.
vote, you know? Done. So there's no support on the article.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn? Motion by John, second by Mark. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining this hearing.